What's up fellow nerds, I'm your host Dr. McKay and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a breakdown of the Lantean Aurora class warship from Stargate Atlantis. I will be doing the usual breakdown of the ship's history and the specifications along with some personal theories of the ship's history. But before we get started, if you like the content, feel free to hit that like button, don't forget to comment your thoughts, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help the channel out. Now with all that said, let's go. So the history of the Aurora class ship is somewhat lost to history. Ironic, isn't it? As the ship was constructed by the Lanteans, more commonly referred to as the Ancients, over 10,000 years ago. And because of this, and the amount of time since the Ancients were around, many of the ships and technologies have been lost or destroyed during that time. So some of this history I'm going to cover is going to be speculation on my part using the history from the show. So let's begin. It's unclear on when the Aurora class warship was constructed, but one can assume that the Ancients constructed these ships during their time in the Pegasus galaxy, possibly as a response to the emergence of the Wraith. The Aurora class warship was the largest warship used by the Lanteans during the war with the Wraith over 10,000 years ago. The exact number built is never known, but we can presume the Lanteans had many of these ships during the war. These ships were far superior in battle against Wraith hive ships in one-on-one combat, but due to the Lanteans' overconfidence in their technology, the Wraith let the Lanteans push deep within their territory, and with the Wraith's greater numbers, overpowered the Aurora class ship in these battles, capturing or destroying them, ultimately reducing the Lanteans' military strength to hold the Wraith back. And this ultimately allowed the Wraith to push the Lanteans all the way back to the home planet of Lantia, where the city of Atlantis was located. But after a century of war with the Wraith, by its end, the Lanteans had very few ships left. The ones we know of that survived the war to be found in the present day are, firstly, we have the Aurora. This ship during the final months of the war was on a mission to secure and bring back to Atlantis vital information about a weakness in Wraith technology, but it came under attack and sustained heavy damage. The crew, in order to survive, went into stasis and was forgotten until the Atlantis expedition discovered the ship 10,000 years later. And during its discovery, the crew was found still alive but in stasis. In the end though, the crew and the ship was destroyed by the Aurora's self-destruct, preventing the Wraith from obtaining any knowledge from the ship. The Atlantis team later had a drink honouring the ship and crew for their sacrifice. The next ship to be discovered was the Hippothoraicus, later renamed the Orion by Colonel Shepard. It was discovered by the Terranians in an abandoned Lantean subterranean hangar facility on the planet Taranis. This ship was damaged during the war with the Wraith and was berthed at this facility for repairs. However, these repairs never took place due to the Wraith winning the war. The ship would lie dormant for the next 10,000 years until Colonel Shepard and his team made contact with the Terranians and discovered, due to the overuse of the facility's geothermal generators, the formerly dormant supervolcano that lied beneath the facility was going to explode. The team ultimately used the ship to escape the eruption, saving them and the remaining Terranians from the explosion. Later on, the Terranians allowed the Atlantis expedition to use the ship, now named the Orion. This ship took part in stopping two Wraith hive ships from reaching Earth and was destroyed in that battle, but not before single-handedly taking out one of the hives itself with its drone weapons. The next Aurora class ship encountered by the Tauri was the Tria. This ship was encountered by the Daedalus flying at 0.999 speed of light in the void between the Milky Way galaxy and the Pegasus galaxy. The Tria, around 10,000 years ago, was damaged in a battle with two Wraith cruisers, and after receiving word from Atlantis that the remaining Lanteans had gone through the Stargate to Earth, unable to return to Atlantis, the crew decided to head to Earth to rejoin their surviving Lanteans. The crew then modified the Tria's engines for intergalactic travel and started their long journey to Earth. However, halfway through their journey, their hyperdrive was irreparably damaged. Unable to turn back to the Pegasus galaxy, they modified their sublight engines and, with the use of a ZPM, continued their journey to Earth at 0.999 speed of light. And at this speed, due to special relativity, they would only experience a few years over the next 10,000 years of travel, allowing the 100 or so crew to remain alive when the Daedalus encountered them in the present day. The ship was never shown or mentioned again in the show, but it is to be believed that the trio was left floating in the void between galaxies adrift near the location where the Midway station was, according to one of the writers of the show. And lastly, the last Lantean Aurora class warship found was the one that the travelers discovered adrift in space in a 200-year elliptical orbit of a dwarf star. This ship goes unnamed, but 10,000 years ago it was attacked by the Wraith, and in that battle it lost communications, shields, and its engines were damaged. They managed to escape into hyperspace, but due to deadly radiation leaking from the main drive, they reluctantly abandoned the ship with the intent to return to it and effect repairs. However, due to the war with the Wraith, it was forgotten and the ship lay dormant for the next 10,000 years, until the travelers salvaged and repaired it later on. And once repaired, they began to use the ship for their traveler fleet. The ship later took part in the battle over Asurus against the Replicators in a joint fleet of Tauri, Traveler and Wraith ships, but like most Aurora class ships found, it did not last long as it was later destroyed on the surface of a planet that had its Stargate explode due to the Altero device. No other Lantean built Aurora class ships have since been discovered since the events of the show, other than the ones the Asuran Replicators constructed on their home world. However, because they were not built by the Lanteans, any Asuran Aurora class warships are excluded from this list. However, it does not rule out that there is more Lantean ships to be found in the Pegasus galaxy floating adrift, as the Lanteans had vast amounts of technology that have withstood the test of time. So I would expect there to be many more Lantean built ships out there to be found. So with the history of the ship covered, let's go over the specifications, starting with the size. So now for my favourite part of the video, the complexities of Stargate ship sizes. Now the Lantean Aurora class warship is one of the largest ships in Stargate, coming in at around 3,000 to 3,500 meters long, with a height of around 500 to 1,000 meters and with no width given, and these are the online measurements. But this is me, so after fighting the computer to give me the answers, I finally settled on 3,000 meters or 3 kilometers long for the ship. The height of the ship is around 300 meters to 500 meters, given the various points along the ship being different sizes. And using the 720 meter long Daedalus class ship that I previously done as a rough scale, the Aurora class width is around 400 meters wide at the front of the ship, and at the rear around 1,000 meters wide. Now these measurements are my rough guesses, so not necessarily correct, but they are in the right area for the ship size. Also, as you can see, I have placed Atlantis in this image to show you the scale next to the city at the city size of 5 kilometers as stated online. Up next, we shall go over the ship's technical specifications. Starting off with the engines, the Aurora class warship has 2 main engine units. The first one is the sublight drive, which is located at the rear of the ship, consisting of 8 triangular shaped engines with 3 smaller circular engine units in the middle of the 8 triangular, with 2 other circular engine units on each side of the ship, roughly in the middle of the ship, located here. The Aurora class possesses the fastest sublight engines known to exist within the Stargate universe, capable of reaching 0.999 speed of light, but they are typically operated at conventional speeds at roughly half the speed of light. The 0.999 speed of light is using the ZPM in special circumstances. Up next, we have the Lantean hyperdrive. The class of hyperdrive for the Aurora class is typically interstellar. This class of hyperdrive can be modified for intergalactic, however. The reason behind the interstellar drive being the standard drive installed was probably due to the war with the Wraith. The reasoning was to prevent the Wraith from reverse engineering the intergalactic drive from the captured or destroyed Aurora class ships in battle, keeping the Wraith within the Pegasus galaxy and preventing them from traveling to other galaxies. Up next, we're going to talk about the shields. The shields used on the Aurora class are among one of the strongest the Lanteans possessed at their height of power in the Pegasus galaxy, being only second to the Atlantis shields. The Aurora's shields are unique amongst shield systems, as the shield doesn't create a bubble shield around the ship, but instead used the same method as Destiny, where the shields closely contour around the ship's hull for a tight fit. The shields are of a dark, translucent orange-brown colour, consistent with the majority of ancient shield technologies, from the Destiny to even the Gould reverse engineered ancient shield technology in the present day, being the only thing that is similar is the colour of the shield, with each shield variation having its own shield strength and durability. The Aurora shields are very resilient, managing to withstand many hits with little bleed-through effect from standard weapons. However, the Asgard plasma beam weapons used on the Daedalus class ships can easily cut through its shields, as shown in the show against the Asurian's Aurora class warships. However, like with most shields in Stargate, the shields are only as strong as the power you put into them and how much the emitters can withstand before collapsing. Which brings us to the next part of the video: energy and power systems. The primary power generation of the Aurora class ship is unknown, but it probably consisted of a powerful Lantean Aurora reactor or something of similar energy generation method. This generator powered the entire ship's functions. However, the Aurora class can be equipped with a ZPM to supplement the main power supply, giving the Aurora a massive boost in power generation. But even without a ZPM, the Aurora class primary power can remain powered and operational for thousands upon thousands of years, as seen in the show. Next up, we have the weapons. The Aurora class warship has two weapon systems. The first is the primary weapon system, which is the extremely powerful drone weapon system. These drones are the Lanteans' most powerful projectile weapons ever created by them, and using the swarm method of attack, the Aurora class can fire any number of drones from one to hundreds of drones at a time to effectively overwhelm and shred the enemy, or it can use a low amount of drones to be extremely precise in attack. They are launched from the top side near the front of the ship here. So the Aurora's next weapon system is the secondary weapons. These are 16 pulse turrets, similar to the Destiny's cannons, but obviously the Aurora class warships are more powerful, being newer technology. There are 2 at the front of the ship on the underside here, 8 cannons on the top side in the front middle section here, and 6 more at the rear of the ship here. These cannons are not as powerful as the drones, but with sustained fire can do serious damage to enemy ships. So up next, we're going to be covering the ship's operational control systems. So the Aurora class, as well as many of the Lantean technology from this period, they are controlled through a mental or neural interface. Usually this is achieved through a control chair that requires the ancient gene to operate. The Aurora class has 2 chairs. One is located on the bridge for ship flight and maneuvering, and this chair is of a sleek and different design than the other chair. The weapons chair is located within the ship, with this chair controlling the weapon systems. Other controls on the ship are console button control consoles that don't require a neural input to operate, and once initialized by someone with the ancient gene, they can be operated by anyone, Wraith included. Other systems are the sensors and communications arrays, which are located here on the side of the ship, and these sensors help aid the mental control of the weapons in combat and are used for long-range sensors, long-range communications, subspace communications, as well as various other navigational systems. And they are also controlled by the regular console controls around the ship as well. So I think that is it for the technical specifications of the ship. Next, we'll cover the crew and the ship compartments. So for the crew and crew compartments, we'll start off with the crew. The Aurora class ship can carry a crew of around 500 and be controlled with as little as 1 crew. Now, given that the size of the Aurora class being around 3 kilometers long, you would imagine the ship could carry a lot more people. But I think this number is okay, as we are talking about a spaceship here. Ships need air and lots of internal space for ship systems. Plus, a lot of the ship's functions are automated, so it's not unthinkable to limit the crew size to needed crew personnel only. So with the crew out the way, what crew compartments do we see in the show? So firstly, like always, the most important compartment on the ship is the bridge, which is located here on top. The bridge can control all the ship's functions from the main control chair or from the many consoles lined around the room. The unique feature of the Aurora class's bridge is the very large window that opens up half the bridge to the views of space. Next, we have the auxiliary control room, which is a backup if the bridge gets taken down or destroyed. However, it is unclear if this auxiliary control room has a control chair, because it's not shown in the show. Next, we have the weapons control chair room for weapons control. At least 3 hangar bays for puddle jumpers and other spacecraft. Holding cells to hold people in. We also have stasis pods, which are located all around the ship for the crew in emergencies or long distance travel, as shown with the Aurora. Many corridors and storage rooms. The captain's quarters was shown in the Aurora. And lastly, drone storage. But not much else is shown on screen from inside the Aurora class ship. But I would expect it has all the same stuff as a regular starship, with crew quarters, mess halls, med bays, etc. Yeah, it's a spaceship after all, it's got to have everything. Well, I believe that's it, my fellow nerds. That's all the information on the Lantean Aurora class warship I want to cover in this video. It has been a tough video to research, as the Aurora class ship was only explored in the show a few brief times in the show's 5-season long run. But I did my best, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, please like, comment and subscribe for more. And if you have any comments, please write them below. It has been great reading all of your comments and theories, so please continue to comment your thoughts. I have been your host, Dr. McKay. Thank you all for watching this breakdown of the Lantean Aurora class warship. And until the next video, I'll catch you all then. Cheers and goodbye. Bye bye all.